Good afternoon and welcome to this one more webinar from Telric India. This time we're going to be looking at how to integrate SignalR easily in your HTML5 applications with Kendo UI. Here's the agenda for today. We're going to be first looking at what is ASP.NET SignalR. Then we're going to take a look at Kendo UI, just a brief description or just a brief look at Kendo UI. Then we're going to take a look at how to use ASP.NET SignalR along with Kendo UI. Before we start with understanding ASP.NET SignalR, let's take a moment to understand what do we mean by real-time web. Well, the meaning of real-time web is very simple. It's the ability to have the server push content to connected clients instantly as it becomes available, rather than having the server wait for a client to request new data. So basically what this is saying is, anytime you come across somebody saying this is a real-time web application, that means that the server has the capability to push data or push information instantly as soon as it becomes available on the server side to all the connected clients. Traditionally, what happens is that the clients usually request the data from the server. So the client are the ones who actually go and then ask for, hey, do you have a new data available? So that's not real time. So the real time is when the server gets hold of any information, any new information or any new data, and then it instantly sends it across to the the connected client. So that is real-time web. Typical examples are, maybe you're looking at a page where you are seeing a stock ticker going on, and then immediately you see the stock prices going up and down, and then the screen just reflects the new changes, and then you do not have to refresh the page. So that's real-time web for you. Now that we know what exactly we mean by real-time web or real-time web functionality, let's spend some time understanding ASP.NET SignalR. So this is going to be a brief introduction to ASP.NET SignalR. Well, ASP.NET SignalR is nothing but a library, or I like to call it as an ASP.NET library. So ASP.NET is the web application technology or the platform that you get on .NET. And with ASP.NET, we have ASP.NET SignalR. As I said, it's a library, and ASP.NET SignalR makes it possible for you to have a real-time web functionality in your application. So basically, if you want to go real-time web, or if you want to provide real-time web functionality in your application, you better use ASP.NET SignalR. Plus, ASP.NET SignalR, being a library, simplifies things for developers. So it simplifies the way you need to handle the real-time web functionality in your applications. It's as simple as writing a server-side class and then writing a companion for JavaScript functions on the client side. That's as simple as it can get when it comes to ASP.NET SignalR. So how is this possible, or how does ASP.NET SignalR work, right? So it's basically a simple API, very straightforward API that you get in the ASP.NET. It basically allows you to create server to client RPC, or the remote procedure call. So if you have ever worked on any of the RPC based technologies, this would pretty much feel similar to you. Basically, it allows you to call JavaScript functions in browsers or clients from .NET code. So in your .NET server side, when you create the ASP.NET SignalR based code, it allows you to call a JavaScript function in any of the browsers, basically Internet Explorer, or basically the browser clients, or not only the browser clients, rather I may have a Windows application or a Windows Phone application which is connected to my SignalR API or the server side code, and then based on all these things you can actually go and then make a call from the .NET code. Plus, the SignalR API allows you to, it manages connection management API, so it provides you connection management API. The connection is handled automatically. Basically, the connection is nothing but all the connected clients, and then you can pretty much broadcast to the connected clients, or you can actually message a very specific client. But you do not have to do anything. The SignalR API does the connection management automatically. So why would you use SignalR? Basically, there are a couple of scenarios where you would want to think of using SignalR. Or it's basically you got to question yourself as to when should I go real-time web. So one of the simplest thing is anytime the user needs to refresh the screen. Let's say you're looking at a piece of data and it requires the user to actually refresh the whole screen in order to refresh just the particular grid or just the particular data that he wants. Well, that's pretty much a candidate for SignalR, meaning that's a candidate for real-time web communication or a candidate for real-time web functionality. So basically you would make use of SignalR to provide that instantaneous update of the data. Plus, other common scenarios where a real-time web functionality may be required is dashboards and monitoring. Maybe you are building up a dashboard where the sales are going on at your backend, and then you want to see the number of sales that have happened or the number of the amount of sales that have happened, but you need minute-to-minute or a second-to-second update on all your statistical data. So that's basically a place where you put a dashboard, you have your gauges coming up, you have your graphs coming up, but you need them updated real time. So that's where you can use SignalR, and you can push anytime a sale is made in the backend or anytime a new sale has been accounted for. You can actually use the SignalR to push the update to all the connected clients, and then whoever is watching the dashboard, they can immediately get the updated data, the gauges move, the graphs they change, and then you will get the real-time feeling of your data. The same goes with the monitoring also. Usually you monitor maybe a particular device, a machine at the back end or whatever you're trying to monitor, and then you want a minute-to-minute update. Yes, you can go with SignalR or real-time web functionality for those kind of scenarios. And not only, it's not limited to dashboards or monitoring or even the page refresh. Basically, this is you can use this for collaborative anything, right? So basically, you are editing a document, you have other person editing at the other end, and then you are looking at the same document, and then when the particular user makes any changes, you want to be notified of the change, saying like, hey, this has been updated by so and so user. Well, there you go. That's a very classic example of a real-time web, and then you will need SignalR in these cases. Plus a job progress, meaning I have submitted a long running task and then I need to know what is happening at regular intervals. So what you can do is, since SignalR provides you that capability to directly push data from the server to the client, the server can actually keep processing the data and then keep notifying the clients that, hey, I'm done with step 1 or I'm done with step 2 or step 3 or whatever those progress that you're looking for, and then that progress can be communicated back to the clients, and then clients can actually make use of this data that's coming back from the server in a visual manner, and then they can show maybe a progress bar, anything like that. So this is another scenario. Last but not the least, this can be used for gaming also. So in gaming, you need the leaderboard to be updated depending on how many number of people are playing the game. The leaderboard has to be a real-time leaderboard. It doesn't make sense if I open the game and then I look at a leaderboard and then it's not refreshed, and then again I go back and see that I am seeing a stale data. So with SignalR or with real-time functionality, what you can do is every time the leaderboard is seen, it can be the latest and greatest score that's coming in, and then if any time a score changes and then I'm looking at the leaderboard will be updated instantaneously because the server pushed the real-time data. And that's where pretty much you can start make use of this real-time functionality, and then the SignalR can be used as one of the APIs for that, or one of the technology for that. Having seen what, how, and then why of SignalR, let's quickly take a look at how real-time with SignalR is done, or at a very high level. So if I have to go back and then look at the real-time real-time functionalities that we used to build with older servers or clients, this is typically how we would have done it, or this is typically how we have done it. So you have the client, basically it's nothing but the browser, and then you have the server. So typically what the browsers would do or the clients would do is they would keep pinging the server saying like, hey, do you got any data? Basically this is nothing but to make sure that I'm getting the real time data coming back. But the client used to do this pull. The client used to always ping the server and ask for, do you have the fresh data? And then the server would respond back saying like, no, I don't have some data. Then finally at some point of time when server had the data, server would have said, yes, I have the latest data, here is some data for you. Well, it came back to the client, and then clients would again continue to pull or continue to ping the server saying, okay, that's fine, I got one set of data, so now do you have the new set of data? So this is typically what you would do, what you would have done, before maybe technologies like ASP.NET SignalR, and this was widely in one of the widely used ways of providing a real-time web functionality in your applications. Well, with real-time, with SignalR on newer servers or clients, basically when I say newer servers, nothing but the latest server softwares like Windows Server 2012, and then all the latest and greatest browsers. So that's what I mean by newer servers and clients. So how do you do real time with SignalR with the newer servers and clients? Basically, now the client will go ahead and then actually do an handshake with the server saying like, hey, as a client, I have the capability to communicate to you real time, but do you have the capability to communicate real time? So that's a question that the client asks the server. The server, if it is a newest of the server breeds, so it will say like, hey, well, yeah, I too communicate real time. So the client will say, well, that's good, so let's party in real time. So basically now the client and server, they both understand that they can communicate real time, and that's all it is required to actually go and then keep a persistent connection between the client and the server. Otherwise, typically in a web application, the connections are short-lived, meaning you make a request and the response comes back and then that's it. There's no more connection between the client and server. But to communicate real time, you need a persistent connection to be maintained between the client and the server. With real time, with SignalR, what happens is that particular communication is possible, that long persistent connection is possible, and we'll see how these things are done. Let's build a simple chat demo. What I have here is a Visual Studio 2013, and then I'm going to create a new ASP.NET application and then add the SignalR related things, and then we'll build the chat demo. I'm clicking on new project and I'll wait for the new project dialog to come up. Once I get the new project dialog, I will select Visual C# Web and ASP.NET Web Application, and I'll just give it a name. Let's say this is a SignalR chat, and I'll click OK. And I'm just going to select an empty web application for now, and then I'll say OK. So Visual Studio is going to go ahead and then create my project. So Visual Studio has completed creating my project. As you know, this was an empty template that I had selected, so I have literally nothing here, so it's an empty ASP.NET Web application. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a SignalR Hub class. So I'm going to right click on my solution, say add, and new item. In the add new item dialog, I'm going to pick up SignalR, and I'm going to select SignalR Hub class v2. I'm going to name this as Chat Hub and click on add. So we'll have this class created. What is happening now is Visual Studio in the background is actually adding the ASP.NET SignalR libraries to my project. As you can see, the references as open, and then there I have my chat hub, and if I open my references, we will see the ASP.NET SignalR core, ASP.NET SignalR system.web. Pretty much it has added all the necessary things that is required. If I open up my scripts folder, notice we didn't have the scripts folder, but if I now expand my script folder, we'll see jQuery SignalR and the jQuery, all the necessary script files are also being added into my project. Now what I'm going to do is in my chat hub, instead of the predefined hello method, I'm going to go and then copy and paste some code here now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this hello with a method called as send, and basically this send will have a name parameter and a message parameter. Idea is to just broadcast this to all the clients which are connected to my chat. That's it about the the chat hub or the hub that is required for the SignalR to be created. Next up, what I need to do is to add a OWIN startup class. So I will just go ahead and then create a OWIN startup class. In order to add a OWIN startup class, I'm going to say add new item, and I'll just search for startup, and I should see OWIN startup class coming up. I'll say startup.cs. I'll give it a startup.cs as the name, and I'll say add. And as you can see, I have the configuration method, I have the iApp builder there. So all I'm going to do is to say app.map SignalR. So what this does is wires up OWIN with the SignalR stuff, and then it says like, hey, I need the SignalR capabilities in my web application. Now next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a index.html. I'm going to say add an HTML file, and we'll say index. So this is the page where we'll have the chat thing going on. So what I will do is, in order to speed up, or let me go step by step, let me give the template, the title as SignalR chat or SignalR simple chat, and then I need a specific style sheet. So I'm gonna just go and then use a style sheet here. So basically I'm putting up some containers and all those things. Next, I want to place a div here. So in this div, this is the container div. There is a text message where somebody will type the message, and then I have the button to send the message, and then this hidden to actually get the display name of the current user who is logged in to this to the session. And then this is basically an unordered list where I'm going to show all the messages that are coming up. Next up, we need to add references to our scripts. So I'm going to just copy and paste a couple of scripts here. I'll explain what I'm doing. So first up, I have the jQuery reference coming up here. So I'm at 1.10.2. So let me just upgrade this to 1.10.2.min.js. Then the SignalR, we are at 2.0.2. So min.js. And this is going to be the auto-generated hubs at runtime. What SignalR will do is it's going to generate the hubs, the script file, and then we just have to use that. Next up, I'm going to start writing all the code that is required. So I'm going to say script, and we need to say $function, and so first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a chat hub. Remember we have the our server-side hub created as chat hub. So I'm gonna say $.connection.chat hub. So this is pretty similar to what we had on the server side. And then remember we had broadcast message. Whenever basically we're now going to say, like, whenever there's a broadcast message happening, this is what the function handler for that. So I'm listening to the broadcast message. So basically our broadcast message will contain a name and a message coming up. So I'm just going to use that. So what I'm going to do is inside this particular thing, I'm going to just output that into the li unordered list that we had. So if you see here, I'm going to do the encoding of the name, create a div, add that name to that, and add that message to that, and then this unordered list that we had, the discussion, I'm appending an li with a strong with just a couple of HTML things here and there. Then what I'm going to do is, when the page starts or when the page loads, I'm going to go ahead and then ask the user what is his nickname, or enter your name. So I'm doing a prompt here, and then I'm going to set that to the hidden variable display name, and initially let's set focus to the message, and then we need to start the connection. Without starting the connection, nothing's going to happen. So remember, we created the we have the hub start method here, so it says connection.hub.start, and then when done, we have this. What we are doing is grabbing the instance of the send message button, providing a click event handler for that. So click event handler is interesting here. So what we are doing is we are saying chat is the chat hub, and then at the server side I have a method called send. For that I'm taking the display name variable value and then the message that the user typed in, and then I'm just saying send it. So it goes to the server. All that server does is to broadcast it back to the clients, and when a broadcast happens on the client side, so I pick up the name and message and then I put into the li thing. So let me save all for now. Let me run the project. So Visual Studio is now building it, and then here is the output that we are expecting. So when the page loads, we're going to get a prompt which says enter your name. I'm going to say this is Lohit, and then I'm going to say okay. Now if I come back here and then say hello, you will see the broadcast happening, and then I will see the name and then the message coming up. Well, this is not interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dock this to the right. I'm going to create a new window, dock this to the left, and then go to the same URL. Now it's asking me what's your name, so I'm going to say Abhishek, and here now I'm going to say hello, and there you go. On the left hand side you see Abhishek coming up as hello. And now if I say hello Abhishek, and you see on both the side I have the chitter chatter going on. So this is in its simplest form a real-time web functionality, or the chat itself is a real-time functionality. I'll say it's webinar time, and Abhishek can say I will handle the Q&A. And there you go. So this is like a chat that I just built with a couple lines of code, and that's what ASP.NET SignalR provides you, the simplest of the API that you need in order to get the real-time web functionality. Now that we have known what ASP.NET SignalR is all about, next let's concentrate on Kendo UI. So Kendo UI is a product from Telerik. And Kendo UI is nothing but it's a fast, light, complete jQuery based UI widgets in one tool set. So it's a JS framework agnostic, meaning you don't have a lock-in here. You can pretty much work Kendo with Bootstrap, or Kendo with Knockout, or Kendo with Angular, you name it. You can work with any JS framework. So that's why we say it's a JS framework agnostic. As I said, Angular integration is there, Bootstrap theme is available. Also, we have extensive data visualization support out of the box. Mobile specific widgets are also provided, and then you also have the touch support. It does adaptive rendering when it comes to many of the components. So basically Kendo UI is the modern comprehensive HTML5 JavaScript framework that you can find out there. Why Kendo UI? Everything you need in one neat package. So that's what this is all about. In the box you get application framework, web UI, mobile UI, data visualization. When it comes to web UI, we have 30 widgets and growing. We release 3 times in a year, and then we keep adding a lot of controls in every release. bug fixes, everything happening. So as I said, 30 web widgets and still growing. One of the popular widgets in Kendo UI is the Kendo UI grid. When it comes to mobile UI, we have a very complete application tool set for building hybrid and mobile web applications. When it comes to data visualization, the charts, the graphs, and other visuals. So as you can see, we have pretty much all the charts, gauges that you need. So to summarize, Kendo UI is everything for building web and mobile apps with HTML5 and JavaScript. In order to know more about Kendo UI, you can directly jump to www.telerik.com/Kendo UI, Kendo-UI. So this is the product page for Kendo UI. If you want to know more about the features, the widgets that are supported and all those things, you can pretty much jump to telerik.com/Kendo UI. And if you want to go and then see a demo, the demos are available online, so you can go to click on the see demos here. It will take you to demos.telerik.com, and this is where we have an extensive list of the demos for Kendo UI. So as you can see, the whole Kendo UI is kind of segregated into different segments. These are the data management controls that you find under Kendo UI, different editors that you find under Kendo UI, the layout, the charting, you name it, we have it, and then you can pretty much click on it. So if you want to see a very simple control, you can take a look at the autocomplete. This is an example of an autocomplete where you click on, you click inside the text box, you type a variable character, and then you see, it shows you the matching the country name. So basically, this is a autocomplete control. The way you create this autocomplete control is like this. If you see here, I have an input ID countries, and then at document load, all I do is just use the jQuery kind of a syntax and say Kendo autocomplete, and then this control will be converted into Kendo autocomplete. It will use this data source, it will use the filter starts with, there will be a placeholder called select country, and then the separator for multiple values is a comma. So that's as easy as it can get to work with Kendo UI. Next up, we will see how Kendo UI supports SignalR, and then we'll try to see how we can work with SignalR and then Kendo UI. Stay tuned. Support for SignalR in Kendo UI is through its Kendo UI data source. So basically, we have an object called as Kendo data source. So this Kendo data source can connect to any endpoint which returns data in a JSON or XML format. It has the capability to do the complete CRUD, provided you give the CRUD endpoint. So for example, if you have an endpoint for create, update, delete, and read, you just have to set these options on the data source, and data source will automatically invoke those endpoints when you perform actions such as adding a record or updating a record or deleting a record, or you want to read all the records. So data source automatically invokes those endpoints without you writing any code, and it will do all the heavy lifting for you by connecting, getting the data, converting the data into the JSON format and all those things. So the support for SignalR is through the data source, and then it starts with the type parameter. You just have to set the type parameter to SignalR. Then the main important thing here is about the transport. So basically, Kendo UI has this concept called transport, and then typically we will set all the read, update, create, and then delete endpoints on the transport object. When it comes to SignalR, the transport will get an object called SignalR, and then within that SignalR we support things like promise. So what is the connection start promise that you will have, what is the hub that I need to connect, and then also server side, what is the mapping of the CRUD related functions. So for example, on the server side, the read, update, destroy, create methods are mapped to read, update, destroy, create functions are the methods within the hub itself. On the client side, again, the read, update, destroy, create functions are mapped to read, update, destroy, create of the grid itself. So basically on the server side, whenever it creates a new record, the function that will be invoked is the read, and the server, when it says like, hey, I've done reading, and then he broadcasts a message. So the message that's typically caught on the client side is read. This is all it takes to set up the Kendo UI data source to be real-time aware, and then Kendo UI data source to be basically working together with SignalR. Next, let's see a demo of how to use this Kendo data source with Kendo Grid and then ASP.NET SignalR Hub. In this demo, what we're going to do is just create a Kendo UI grid, create a Kendo UI data source, set the Kendo UI data source to connect to the SignalR Hub, and then we'll try to see how Kendo UI data source plays along with SignalR. And then whenever there is a new record added, or you update a record or you delete a record, it keeps all the clients in sync. What I've done now is I'm using a text editor called Sublime Text, and then created a HTML page called a SignalR Demo, and I've set up references to Kendo style sheet, Kendo JavaScript files, and then also I've included the jQuery SignalR for JavaScript reference file that I required. To start with, what I'm going to do is, let me copy this inside the body. So first thing, I'm going to just place a empty grid on the page. So I'm going to just come in here, create a empty div, give it an ID of grid, and this is the place where we'll create the data grid. Next, what I'm going to do is come back here and then create the function methods here. And I will pretty much, what I will do now is to just basically start putting up the things related to the hub. So first thing is we need the hub URL. So what I'm doing is, we have created a SignalR Hub on our demo server. So it's at demos.telric.com/Kendo UI service SignalR Hubs. This hub is basically having a name called product. It's named as product hub, and then it contains methods such as read, update, create, delete. Basically, you read all products, you update a product, you create a product, and you delete a product. So that's the the methods that the hub will contain. Now, in order to create a connection, I'm going to just use the $.hub connection syntax. So this is how you create a connection. You say hub connection, here's the URL, don't use the default path. Then I need to create the hub itself. So basically we have the hub name given as product hub, so I'm saying connection.create hub proxy, and then the hub will be created, and you will need to start the hub. So I'm going to start the hub and then get a promise for that. So basically the start method returns a promise, so I'm taking the promise here, and then I'm saying use JSON-P because I'm doing a cross domain. Next, we will create the grid itself. So I'll say grab the element hash grid and convert that into a Kendo grid, and I want it to be converted like this. So I'll set a minimum height of 550. So what I'm doing is I'm pretty much creating a, basically I'm setting like use 550 as the height of the grid. It should be editable, it should be sortable, and columns are unit price, product name, and then I'll have a button called as destroyer, basically a delete button. And I also created a toolbar button called create. Now I'm going to start defining my data source here, and the way you define your data source is basically you will say type is SignalR because we are connecting to a SignalR Hub. Next I'm going to say auto sync is equal to true. Basically it will automatically sync instead of me calling the sync method whenever it sees the changes. So I'm going to create a schema for this. So basically the schema is basically is nothing but it's a model, contains ID created at unit price. That's all it has. And next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a sort field so that it can create it sorts default by created at field. Now we need to define our transport. So basically I will say transport, and the transport that I'm going to be doing is SignalR. So it needs a promise. The promise is the hub start, and the hub itself we need to give a reference to the hub. So I'll say hub, and then we need to map the server side things. So at the server side I have the read, update, delete, create. So I will provide those, and then of course we need to map the client side also, and we need to provide similar endpoints. So as you can see here, I've gone ahead and then mapped our transports. This is all it takes to wire up our grid with the data source. And let me see if all the matching braces are done. So data source is done, and we should be good to go. So let me save this. So let's go over it again. So basically I created the hub URL, and the hub is located at this particular URL on our demo server. Created a connection, created the hub, and then invoked the hub start promise here, getting the hub start promise. Then I grab the grid element, HTML element, and then convert that into a Kendo grid, set the height, editable, sortable columns, provide the columns. Then I put a toolbar. In the data source, I'm telling the data source that it is of type SignalR, provided a schema for the data, and then in the transport all I need to say is SignalR, and set the promise, set the hub, set the server side mapping, set the client side mapping, and then rest of the things will be done by our Kendo grid. So what I'm going to do is save this and right click and say open in browser, and we need to allow the blocked content. And what we're seeing here is now it's going to the hub which is available on our demo servers and then getting the data. So let me dock this to the right, and let me open up a new window, and I'll navigate to the same. And what you're seeing is basically like a two clients viewing the same page. So basically on the left hand side you have a client, on the right hand side or a user. There is one user who's viewing on this particular data. There's another user who's viewing on the same page, looking at the same data. So maybe the left hand guy tries to go and then update this. So if you see, he sets the price for this product Zanzic cocaine to 10.5, and then he clicks on somewhere, and notice that the right hand side, the right user on the right is automatically updated with the whatever data that was updated. So maybe this guy is going and then saying like he's going to edit this, and as you can see here on the left hand side the data gets edited. So let me add a new record here. So I'm gonna set this as 100, and I will say like this is maybe a burger, the costliest burger you may have know of. So now I have this data created, so the burger will go on the top. If you see here, the burger is here. So let me refresh the page just to bring both of them together. So where did my bugger go? Huh. So let me sort it by the product name. So we have all these things. So let me add a new record. I will say this is 10, and I will say maybe a wrap, and we should have it. Okay, the wrap is here. If you come back here, the wrap is here, so I can delete the wrap, and it asks me, do you want to delete? On the left hand side, you'll see the wrap is gone. So basically, what I'm trying to showcase here is, assume that this is a data grid page, and then you have people creating, deleting, updating, and reading data. And then if you use ASP.NET SignalR hubs to manage that real-time communication, and then if you use Kendo UI data source with Kendo UI data grid without much writing any of the code, you pretty much get that real-time communication happening, and then everything is done by the Kendo UI data source. All you need to set was let the Kendo UI know that where the hub is, what the mapping on the server side is, what the mapping on the client side is, and rest of the things is done by the Kendo UI. So this is as simple as it can get when it comes to integrating with the SignalR, ASP.NET SignalR from Kendo UI side. So it's everything is inside the Kendo UI data source. It's very powerful. And then as you saw, I just set the hub, and then the mappings, and then that's it. The Kendo UI data source does all the heavy lifting for you to make sure it syncs the data grid across the client. So it's not just two clients, any number of clients that are connected on this for this with this page, and all those pages will be updated automatically by Kendo UI. So that's pretty much it for the demo with Kendo UI and SignalR. Hope you got an idea as to how you can use Kendo UI and SignalR. That was a quick demo on ASP.NET SignalR with Kendo UI. Here are some of the resources, so you can always go to www.telerik.com/KendoUI to know more about Kendo UI as a product. The demos of Kendo UI are available at http://demos.telerik.com/kendo/UI. And ASP.NET SignalR can be found on GitHub. It's at github.com/SignalR/SignalR. And then you can also see what are the projects which are built using SignalR at this particular wiki page. There's SignalR wiki projects using SignalR, and that's pretty much what you will see in terms of SignalR. That brings us to the end of this particular webinar. We hope you had a pretty good understanding by now as to what is ASP.NET SignalR, how ASP.NET SignalR helps you with the real-time communication, and also what is Kendo UI, and then how you can use Kendo UI along with SignalR. Hope we get you back in our future webinars. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and then have a good day.